Which disappointing NFL teams actually have a chance to save their season? Plus, Tua is back for the Dolphins. Is he making a mistake continuing to play football? We'll get into that and much more. It's the Jake Asman Football Show, and it starts right now.
Oh, yeah. It's time for the Jake Asman Football Show. Brought to you by BetUS. Expert betting odds and fantasy stats. So let's get into some NFL football. Brought to you by our friends at BetUS. So get your questions ready. Here's your host, Jake Asman.
Here we go. Welcome in, everybody. It is indeed the Jake Asman Football Show, where we talk all things NFL several times a week. We'll have Cole Thompson with us for the weekly picks on Friday. Yours truly went 3-0 this past week, so I'm feeling good about that. If you want to bet on any NFL game, we got the World Series starting Friday. Let's go Yankees. And, of course, the NBA season starting tonight. BetUS is your place for everything. And, by the way, make sure you use that promo code you see on the screen, YouTube150, and take advantage of their 150% sign-up bonus. Thanks to BetUS for being our presenting sponsor. So in this show, I want to hit on a bunch of NFL topics here. I want to get into the Tua stuff. I want to get into some reports coming out of LA that Cooper Kupp is available in a trade, and that obviously would signal the Rams basically waving the white flag and trying to reset. There's some rumblings that maybe Matthew Stafford is available as well. So we'll get into that. But first, let's just talk about some of the most disappointing teams in the NFL. And I'm going to start with the team that I know the most. I know well. The team that many of my audience knows me for. And that's the New York Jets. Jets, to me, have to be right up there with any team you want to list for most disappointing. Even if you didn't believe the Jets were a Super Bowl contender. Even if you didn't think the New York Jets were going to be good enough this year to dethrone the Chiefs, to win multiple playoff games, you had to have thought a team that won 7 games last year with the worst quarterback play in the league would get Aaron Rodgers back, add Tyron Smith to its offensive line, add Morgan Moses to its offensive line, add John Simpson to its offensive line, get their Pro Bowl guard back in Elijah Vera Tucker, trade for Hassan Reddick to replace Bryce Huff. You had to imagine that that football team wouldn't start 2-5. Even if you hate the Jets, you couldn't have imagined they'd start 2-5. I think the Jets are right there as the most disappointing team in football right now. You could point to maybe the Rams at 2-4, but they're an older team. And it was, 2 years ago, they missed the playoffs after they won the Super Bowl. You could look at maybe New Orleans, 2-5 after a 2-0 start, but did anyone really think New Orleans was that good? Plus, part of their struggles have a lot to do with Derek Carr getting hurt. You go through the list. The Niners, you could say them, but San Francisco's 3-4. Big reason why they've been so disappointing. Look at the injuries. McCaffrey has yet to play for them. Now they lose Ayuk for the season. Deebo Samuel's going to be out with a very serious case of pneumonia. So they're disappointing, but you could explain it. The other team I'd throw in there would be the Cleveland Browns. They were a playoff team last year despite all the different injuries and different quarterbacks they had to play. But their issues are because of Deshaun Watson. And they've had some injuries as well. But Deshaun's their biggest problem, and you never want to see a guy get hurt. But I am curious what they look like now without Deshaun if they start playing better. Might be too little too late at 1-6, but I think Cleveland's right there in that conversation as well. Throw the Cowboys in there too. Dallas, 3-3. They don't look like a very good team. They've been blown out when they played a couple of good teams this year. They're playing the Niners on Sunday, a team that has had their way with them. Niners are beat up. You could put the Cowboys in that mix if they lose to the Niners. I think that's fair. But I still think the Jets are the most disappointing. You could have argued Cincinnati if we did this a few weeks ago, but they seemingly have righted the ship, and Burrow gives them a chance against anybody. They're 3-4 right now. The AFC's watered down. I think it has to be the Jets. They're 2-5, despite the fact their schedule is not overwhelming. They're up 15-6 against Pittsburgh on Sunday. That stadium was ready to boo Russell Wilson out of the building. And then Rodgers throws a brutal interception at the end of the half. And all of a sudden, the Jets get punched in the mouth and they're made of glass. They allow 31 unanswered to the Steelers. Garrett Wilson is dropping a great pass from Rodgers that would have set the Jets up that leads to basically a pick six all the way back to the Jet 1 yard line, and the rest was history. You go back to the Jets, lost to Bo Nix and the Broncos, 10-9 at home as a 9-point favorite. How awful they played in London. It's not like they're losing to the Chiefs and the Ravens every week. They've lost to some teams they should be able to beat. And at 2-5, here's how easy the Jets' schedule is. ESPN's analytics actually gives them a 47% chance to still make the playoffs. I don't see it. They got to show us something before you start to believe. They could beat New England on Sunday. Great. The Jets over at BetUS right now are a 7-point favorite in that one. I wouldn't bet the Jets. You're going to lay 7 points? The Jets right now are struggling to beat anyone. You can't lay that many points. You got to see it first. The hope for the Jets is their schedule is easy. But I don't know if that's enough. I mean, right now they can't run the ball. Quarterback doesn't look the same. He's not awful, but he's not what he once was. Their defensive line is a shell of what it was due to injuries and poor management. We'll see if Hassan Reddick might be a little too late. We'll see what he does. They have Devontae Adams. He'll get on the same page with Rodgers, but is it too little, too late? 7-3 down the stretch for the Jets would get them the 9 wins. Is 9-8 enough to be a wild card in the AFC this year? It might be. It's going to depend who those wins are against. But when you talk about disappointing teams, I believe the New York Jets are at the top of that list. People might say, well, Jacksonville's 2-5 as well. I never bought into Jacksonville. I thought they'd be better. But I think the Jets, objectively speaking, are a more talented team than Jacksonville. And that's the difference. Now, some other storylines in the NFL I want to hit on here as you're watching the Jake Asman football show. The Dolphins are going to get Tua back. He might play this week if he's cleared. He spoke yesterday saying it's his choice. He loves football. There's risk in anything you do in life. But the intention is for Tua to play on Sunday if he could pass concussion protocol. He's missed the last 4 games with a concussion. And a lot of people are saying, Tua, what are you doing? You shouldn't play football anymore. You should retire. And I just don't believe it's our right to tell a grown man who's played football his whole life what he should or should not do. This is his decision. Tua, to me, has every right to play football if that's what he wants to do. If he spoke with the doctors, they gave him their medical advice. If he spoke with his family, he has every right to choose if he wants to play football or not. He has every right to decide, hey, I want to be out there. Is he making a mistake? He might be, but isn't that up to him? This guy got paid a big deal. He wants to play football. I respect it. It's not for me to sit here and tell Tua what he should or should not do. It's his life. Now, do I think he should take every proper protocol available to him, like wearing a Guardian cap? I do. That I will push back on him, saying, well, it's personal preference. Well, if you could wear a helmet, that might look a little silly, but it can help you stay healthy, not just in the NFL, but post-NFL life. I think you should do it. All these people saying Tua's an idiot. How could he do this? You're not in his shoes. You're not in his shoes. This guy's played football his whole life. He loves football. It's all he's ever known. I don't think it's fair to say he shouldn't play. I think it's up to him. He knows the risk he's taken. That's how I look at it. Some other things I want to hit on here as we talk about everything going on in the NFL. There's some reports out there that the LA Rams have made Cooper Kupp available in a deal. And you look at Cooper Kupp, obviously, he has not been what he's been in a little while now. He's dealt with a ton of injuries. But this is a guy that could be a true difference maker for a team if you get him back and he's healthy. We know the Rams are open to dealing him. The question is, what teams make sense for Cooper Kupp? And this would now be the third marquee wide receiver trade we would have seen since the NFL season got underway. You had two of them on the same day a week ago today. Davante Adams going to the Jets, and you saw Mari Cooper go to the Buffalo Bills, who scored a touchdown, by the way, in his first game. Now, the report from The Athletic is the Rams have indicated a willingness to take on some of Cooper Kupp's salary for this year, and they want a second-round pick in return. Now, we saw Davante go for a 3, Cooper go for a 3. I think that's kind of the going rate. It will really depend on how much money LA is willing to eat. The more money they eat, the more opportunity they have to maybe get that second. But we'll see. Cooper Kupp is still awesome when he plays, but he's always injured. What team makes sense for Cooper Kupp? That's the question I have. I think after what we saw in Tampa last night, don't the Bucs make some sense? They're in a division that is still obtainable for them. Mike Evans has a hamstring injury. Chris Godwin, unfortunately, suffered that gruesome injury last night. He seems done. On the Rams, I'd call Tampa. Saints could use another receiver too, but they might be out of it by now at 2-5. I don't know how they view their future. Kansas City makes a ton of sense as well. Patrick Mahomes this year leads the NFL in interceptions, yet they haven't lost a game. It's crazy. But I do think they need more weapons. That will catch up with them eventually. The Chiefs are well coached. We know Steve Spagnuolo is a phenomenal DC. Their defense is awesome. I think the Chiefs would make the most sense. Wouldn't that be scary? So it would be interesting to see what teams are in, but Chiefs, Bucs, those are the teams I look at. If they're dead set on maybe only trading him to an AFC team, I think you got to throw the Steelers in there too, right? They could use another weapon. Right now they have George Pickens, and then what? Cooper Kupp has $9.1 million guaranteed remaining this year. $20 million next year, but only 5 of it is guaranteed. So you're basically getting Kupp for a rental. Beyond this year, you don't really owe him a ton of money. You could get out of it for just $5 million. He's still really good, but there's some injury concerns. His body's taking a beating, so it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. The two teams, though, I think that make the most sense as we kind of talk this through live here. If they don't want to trade him to an NFC team, Kansas City and Pittsburgh. And then I'll throw Tampa in there as well. Because despite last night's loss, I still think they have an opportunity to be a playoff team. Because that division's not great. I mean, that's really the bottom line. You know, the Saints are the Saints right now. They're 2-5. Carr is injured. The Panthers are the worst team in football, one can argue. And the Falcons are 4-3. It's the same record as the Buccaneers. So everything's still right in front of them. And if you look at the way the schedule sets up, I know they just played Atlanta a few weeks ago. They play them again this week on Sunday in Atlanta this time. Or excuse me, in Tampa this time. So everything's still right in front of the Bucs despite a bad loss last night. And by the way, you want to know who the MVP of the NFL is? It's got to be Lamar Jackson again, right? 100%. But ultimately, here's what we know. There's going to be more deals. Trade deadline is not until November 5th. I think it's election day, right? Tuesday, November 5th. I think it's election day, by the way. That's not going to be a wild day or anything. But ultimately, we're going to see more players get dealt. We are now seeing more players get traded than ever before. That's just the new NFL. Teams are more willing to wheel and deal. Comments or questions, super chats will cut the line. We're talking all things NFL here on the Jake Asman Football Show. Make sure you click the like button if you haven't, and you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Billy the Kid wrote, Goff is second, MVP. I think Goff has to be in the MVP conversation for sure. It's funny. Usually it goes to the quarterback on the best team, but Mahomes is undefeated right now, and he doesn't have the stats. It's crazy. So he's not going to win MVP. If there's voter fatigue, which does happen, which is why LeBron didn't win the MVP every year of his prime, we're going to see probably Goff get it at this point. If we had to pick someone else. I do see that playing itself out. I mean, we'll see. There's going to be more deals happening, though. Just kind of thinking about some guys who can get moved. Did the Browns really blow it up? Would they trade Garrett? How bad is it for Vegas? Would they trade their stud edge rusher, Crosby? I don't know. Crazy. Now, there is also a report out there that the Rams would flip Stafford to the Vikings and Darnold would go to the Rams and they would sign Darnold long term. And this would be the all-in move the Vikings are making to try and win this year before they hand the reins back to J.J. McCarthy, who they like and drafted in the first round. I don't know if I'm buying that. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that here because that's fresh, like right before I signed on the air here on Tuesday, October 22nd. But I don't know if I'm buying that one. We got our first super chat of the Jake Asman Football Show today. Super chat coming in here from G-Rad. Given the amount of talent, this team may be the biggest letdown in the history of the NFL. I've never seen a better roster this bad. I'm assuming this is in reference to the Jets, which I led the Jake Asman Football Show with. Tough to argue. Look, even if you thought the Jets were not a Super Bowl team, you couldn't question the talent, the roster. You could question the coaching. And that's obviously been a big part of why they're 2-5. But a perfect example of this is Tyron Smith. We all know he's an older player. But last year with the Cowboys, he was a second-team All-Pro in 13 games. The concern with Tyron Smith was not, is he washed? It was, can he stay healthy? Well, he's out there and he's washed already. He lost it that quick. Crazy. And some of it's just like guys not playing to their potential. Garrett Wilson hasn't had the year the Jet fan thought he would have. Sauce Gardner hasn't had the year the Jet fan thought he would have. Go top to bottom. Rodgers, I don't think, has been as good as what we thought he'd be. They haven't had a running game, man. Breece Hall has not played great. It's really been everything. It's been so disappointing. Go to each unit of the team, name a specific player. Very few guys have probably played up to the standard we had set for them or played above that standard. Most of them played below that standard. That's how you start 2-5. And that's what's so frustrating. Joshua says, I could care less about the rest of the league. Well, maybe don't watch the show because it's a football show. See ya. Anyway, long way to go. Long way to go. But it's been a crazy NFL season so far, huh? Crazy NFL season so far. I want to thank everyone who tuned in to the Jake Asman Football Show. We'll be back on Friday with Cole Thompson. Let's see how Cole did this week, by the way. I'm pretty sure he went 1-2, which is awesome because I went 3-0. So we're making some headway here. Oh, wow. Cole went 0-3. Let's go, baby. Yeah. Cole 0-3. Let's update the overall records. Let's see. I'm getting back in this race here. Wow. Just like that, baby. Cole went from 10-5 to 10-7 in our weekly picks contest. I went 3-0. Thank you, Lions, Bills, and Eagles. My overall record is now from 7-8 to 10-8. I'm 1 game behind Cole. Wait, how does that make sense? Oh, Cole's 10-8 too. Actually, we're tied. I did the math wrong. Hey, he was 10-5 and he went 0-3. How about it, baby? We're both 10-8. Just like that, we're tied. So Friday's going to be interesting. Anyway, hit the like button on your way out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, appreciate all of you for your support. My name is Jake Asman. You can listen to me on ESPN New York and Sirius XM, Mad Dog Radio, and NFL Radio. And you can find me on YouTube right here talking NFL and talking New York Jets football as well. We are presented, of course, by BetUS. One more time, bet on any sport. Basketball tonight, World Series on Friday, every NFL game, college football, they have it all. BetUS is the place for your sports book, for your bets. Use that promo code YouTube150 when you sign up for a 150% sign-up bonus. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. My name is Jake Asman. This has been another episode of the Jake Asman Football Show. Have a good Tuesday, everybody.